I didn't mention it last Sunday, but last Sunday marked the 11th year that I've been here. Long time, right? Thank you for that. I think you should be applauding yourself. You're very patient folks. We appreciate you. Robin and Riley went down to Steveville to see Hannah and to hopefully find my son a job when he transitions to school here in the fall down there. So pray for their safe travel if you would. And then Rob and I get to leave Friday on vacation, so I'll be gone 2 weeks. 2 Sundays. I won't be gone 2 weeks, but I'll be gone 2 Sundays. That'll be all right. I'll just get to practice another 11. Right? That'll be all right. I want to direct our minds this morning to 2 passages. One, the one that was read, and we'll work our way through it, and then one other big reading. I make no apologies this morning for 2 lengthy readings. That's probably not good preaching, but I think it's a good idea to hear God speak from His Word. So I hope every time I preach, you take what God says as the gospel and the truth, and any comments I may make on it as a commentary and something for you to consider to help you have insight, hopefully. But God's Word is God's Word, not my words. So let's look at Hebrews 12:18 and following. I appreciate Marlon reading that for us earlier. But I want to get it fresh on your mind. I also wanted to, I've been keeping a secret from you for 11 years. That there's always a verse on the front of the bulletin, and the verse on the front of the bulletin always has something to do with the sermon. I don't know if y'all ever picked up on that, but I thought I'd let you in on a little secret, right? So consider it. The Hebrew writer, because we don't know who he was, right? The Hebrew writer said, "For you have not come to what may be touched, blazing fire, and darkness, and gloom, and a tempest, and the sound of a trumpet, and a voice whose words make the hearers beg that no further messages be spoken to them. For they could not endure the order that was given. If even a beast touches the mountain, it shall be stopped." Indeed, so terrifying was the sight that Moses said, "I tremble." The picture is a picture of God's glory descending on a mountain. There where He's about to give Moses the law. And so the whole passage, as we're looking at this passage, is really couched in another passage. And so if you want to keep a finger in Hebrews 12 and turn back with me to Exodus 19, I want us to go back and look at what the Hebrew writer had in mind when he wrote the words we just read. Exodus 19, beginning in verse 18. "Now Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke because the Lord had descended on it in fire. The smoke of it went up like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled greatly. And as the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke. And God answered him in the thunder. The Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain. The Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain. Moses went up. And the Lord said to Moses, 'Go down and warn the people, lest they break through to the Lord and look, and many of them perish. Also let the priests who come near to the Lord consecrate themselves, lest the Lord break out against them.' And Moses said to the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai. For you yourself warned us, saying, 'Set limits around the mountain and consecrate it.' And the Lord said to him, 'Go down and come up, bringing Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest He break out against them.' So Moses went down to the people and told them. And God spoke all these words, saying, 'I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me, keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter or your male servant or your female servant or your livestock or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Too often we take those words of the law, set them outside of the scene that was there. Can you imagine what it must have been like? I want you, as best you can, to picture yourself at the base of Mount Sinai. I believe it's the modern mountain Jebel El Lawz. Look that up, L-A-W-Z, Jebel El Lawz. I could be wrong. The guy who kind of made that discovery, Ron Wyatt, may have been wrong. He was wrong in some other things. But there are some giant boundary stones that sit around this place. There are little pictographs of golden calves on some of these stones. One of the interesting things about Jebel El Lawz is that the top of that mountain is black. It's just stone. It's just rock. Another interesting thing about the top of that mountain is that there's a big rock that's kind of got a split in it, and the split is kind of offset. And I can just imagine Moses looking through that split, looking upon the backside of the presence of the Lord as he passed by. In my mind, I can picture that scene, those pictures I've seen of Jebel El Lawz. I don't know what picture you see, but in my mind, I see this blackened mountain. I can imagine the mist, the cloud that came down over the top of the mountain, and within that, the lightnings, the peals of thunder, and all of these noises, this reverberating sound. There's a giant, a plain there. There's, in the very same area, another rock looks suspiciously like the one that Moses was told to strike and then later to speak to. And from that rock, you can see there once was a brook that came from that rock. Those things are there today. I can vividly picture this picture. I can picture as the people are gathered around the base of this mountain, and as God begins to thunder out, that the people fall down on their faces. They begin to cry out, Moses, you go up and talk to them. We're not going up there. Can you imagine? Moses took those first steps across that boundary that God had said to set up. As he even said, if any animal crosses that boundary, it's to be stoned to death. Priest. Moses. It says in verse 22 of our passage that you have come to Mount Zion and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to innumerable angels in festal gathering, we come to the real mountain. Not Jabal El Lawz in Sinai, not Mount Calvary, not the Temple Mount there in Jerusalem. No, we've come to the real mountain of God, the real city of Jerusalem. We came into Christ. We came into the very presence of God. It's still a fearful and marvelous thing to be in the presence of God, and yet I fear that we church and fellowship and do those things without really thinking about the idea that we live and exist in the presence of God. Our God is a consuming fire. Verse 23, and to the assembly of the firstborn who were enrolled in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous made perfect. You see, we come to the real mountain of God, and we come into the real assembly. This is not just an assembly of those who were encamped around the base of Mount Sinai, many of whose hearts obviously weren't where they ought to be. Kind of figured that out by what they were doing by the time Moses comes down. We come into the assembly of those who by faith have come into the very presence of the real mountain, to the real assembly. Verse 24, and to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. We've come to the real. I would be remiss if I began to speak poorly about the covenant that God had made to Abraham, to David, the covenant he made in giving the law. He made a covenant with Israel. All of it was pointing to the covenant, the real covenant you and I come into. No longer will somebody tell their neighbor, know the Lord, for they all shall know him, from the least of them to the greatest. No one's going to be saying, know God. Everybody's going to know him because we enter by faith in him. It is a real assembly based on a real covenant that has a real meaning. Moses was a great man. I don't want to take anything from him. He was a man of great faith. Yet Moses was nothing compared to Jesus. He had a real meaning. So we continue to read. It says, verse 25, see that you do not refuse him when you speak. For if they did not escape when they refused him who warned them on earth, much less will we escape if we reject him who warns from heaven. At that time, his voice shook the earth. But now he has promised, yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens. This phrase, yet once more, indicates the removal of all things that are shaken. That is, the things that have been made, in order that the things that cannot be shaken may remain. I want you to understand what he's saying. He's saying, I want you to think about that day at Mount Sinai. I want you to imagine what it was like to be at the base of Mount Sinai, how awesome, awe-striking it must have been. And I want you to know that a day is coming to make that day hell. God's saying, look, I demonstrated my power to Moses and to the people, and yet they turned away from it. I demonstrated my power through the plagues, through the crossing the Red Sea, all the things that he's going to do for them, but I displayed my power on that mountain. I want you to imagine that, and I want you to think about that as impressive as it might have been my presence on that mountain won't be there. All this ground we walk on won't be there. All the things that we hold as those possessions. When Jesus comes, it's going to be a lot more powerful than that. I want to be one of those who are found being about those things and holding on to those things that will work. I think we spend too much time on things that will burn up along with the earth. We spend too much time on things that won't be in heaven. We're too impressed with the things of this life. We ought to be impressed about the things coming. It says, verse 28, therefore let us be grateful for receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken. And let us offer to God acceptable worship with reverence and awe. Our God is a consuming what? I think how we worship is important. Ask Eli's sons when they offered strange fire, how we worship is important. But what's more important is who we are. Who we are when we worship. How that we live by our faith before Him. That's the most important thing. We've got to be real with God. He knows our heart of hearts. He sees into our inmost being. There's no way we can fool Him. It's about who we are. Have we given ourselves to Him? Have we acknowledged Him? Have we been grateful and thankful to Him? Are we thanking Him for all those things He's given us? Yes, the things that will be shaken, but more importantly, the things that cannot be shaken. So that's the why of all this. Hebrew writer, why are you telling us this story? I'm telling you the story so that you'll be thankful, so that you'll worship, so that you'll live a life of faith God has called us to. I want to point your attention to the front of your bulletin. Deuteronomy 4 and verse 24. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. I don't know that we talk about it enough, and I have to point the finger at myself. We talk about studying and preaching and reading, but we don't talk much about meditating. I wonder what it would be like if we took that simple verse, those few short words this week, and meditated on it. Allow that verse to run through our mind over and over and over this entire week. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, jealous God. We have a God, we have a kingdom, purpose, a relationship that cannot be shaken. I want to end with this. There's an intensity to this passage, and I hope somehow I've been able to communicate it to you. As you think about that scene, I think Spielberg would do good to try to create a scene like was at the base of Mount Sinai. The intensity of it. And the thought that when Jesus comes, the intensity of Sinai will seem as nothing. The intensity of what's coming is so much greater. And there's an intensity to this passage, an intensity to the scene that's pictured, and there's certainly an intensity to our God. He wants us to have an intensity to our lives. As we picture the things that He did on Sinai, as we try to picture the things of how He will display His power when He comes, to remember that our God is a consuming fire and a jealous God. He's a jealous God. Let us be a zealous God. That's what He's calling us to. This morning, I don't know what your station is. don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know if you're in Christ and you're just kind of lost your intensity and your way somewhere along the way. If you need to be restored, if you need to recommit yourself to Him, maybe you just need to be reminded this morning of your God is a consumer. Maybe this morning you're not in Christ. It's not going to be a good day for you if you're not in Christ. Paul will say in 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, God is just. He's going to repay back evil for evil and those kinds of things. And he talks about that God is coming back, Jesus is coming back with his mighty angels and flaming fire, and he's going to deal out retribution to those who do not know God and those who have not obeyed the gospel. But verse 10 is interesting. He says, and to be marveled at among all of those who long for his one event, one awesome event that will either be the most awesome, compelling display of God's power that you could ever hope to see. It will be great. It will be the most terrifying thing you can imagine. Why would you stay outside Christ? What does this world that's going to be shaken, that's going to be burned up, have to offer? Why don't you come to the real mountain, to the real Jerusalem? Why don't you come into that festival of sin? Why don't you come to this scene that's before the throne of God, and you can live your life knowing you're in the presence of God, anticipating in a good way Jesus coming? Why don't you wait? For our God is a consuming fire. He is a jealous God. He calls each and every one of us to come to Him. If you have need, would you